It is a great satisfaction to greet you again. I hope you and your pet are well. Today we will talk about the following: internal bleeding in dogs, symptoms and what to do. Internal bleeding in dogs can be difficult to diagnose as the problem lies in tissues that we cannot directly see. Bleeding occurs when a blood vessel breaks. It can be a capillary, a vein or an artery, the blood vessels from smallest to largest. The bleeding can be superficial or internal. The main risk of internal bleeding in dogs is hypovolemic shock. This occurs when the body runs out of blood in the blood vessels and cannot get oxygen to the cells. It can cause the death of the animal. Hypovolemic shock caused by hemorrhage is established with a blood loss equivalent to 30% of the volume in the dog. If the dog loses around 30% of its blood volume, it will go into shock. 1. Causes of internal bleeding in dogs. As I told you earlier, capillaries, veins, and arteries can rupture or leak, causing internal bleeding. This is the direct cause of internal bleeding, but there are various situations that can cause a blood vessel to rupture. Trauma, neoplasms, medicines, diseases. Due to their activity and excitement levels, younger dogs are more likely to develop internal bleeding from trauma. Older dogs are more likely to suffer from neoplasms such as tumors, since their body's defenses wear down with age. 2. Symptoms of internal bleeding in dogs. Internal bleeding in dogs is a worrisome condition that can have different symptoms. That is why it is so important to pay attention to the signs that indicate the presence of internal bleeding. Dogs with internal bleeding have the following general symptoms: weakness, pale mucous membranes, for example, pale gums, cold skin, dizziness, thirst, heavy breathing, vocalizations indicating discomfort, pain, loss of consciousness. Never try to treat the dog alone at home. Internal bleeding is a medical emergency that must be attended to by a professional as soon as possible. 3. Is bloody stool a symptom of internal bleeding in dogs? This can be a symptom of internal bleeding in the animal. After trauma, depending on the region affected, the dog may urinate or defecate bloody. This is because some of the blood vessels in organs such as the bladder and intestines can break, causing bleeding. However, this does not mean that a dog has internal bleeding if you see some blood in his stool. In fact, if you see fresh blood, it means there is a problem in the lower part of the gastrointestinal tract. If internal organ bleeding occurs, the blood that is passed will be darker due to partial digestion in the intestine. In addition, certain gastrointestinal pathologies may be causing internal bleeding. While these are serious on their own, it doesn't mean they are necessarily life-threatening at this stage. Internal parasites in the dog can also cause problems such as blood in the dog's stool. Regardless of the cause of the bleeding, a veterinary evaluation should be performed. 4. Consequences of internal bleeding in dogs. Internal bleeding can lead to the death of the dog if it is not stopped in time. The hemorrhage can progress to hypovolemic shock, characterized as an emergency condition in which severe blood and fluid loss results in a critical decrease in blood volume. This causes the heart to be unable to pump enough blood to the tissues. Abdominal bleeds in dogs should receive intense fluid therapy to stabilize the animal. Surgical intervention will be necessary if animals undergoing clinical treatment do not show improvement in their condition. 5. What to do if your dog has internal bleeding. If you suspect your dog has internal bleeding, lay him down in a comfortable position and keep him warm. You can do this using a blanket or a hot water bottle. Don't try to fix the problem and don't delay. Seek help immediately. Take the dog to the vet immediately. Avoid moving the animal as this can worsen internal bleeding. During the trip, check the dog's vital signs such as temperature and the color of the gums. These observations can help the vet during the consultation, along with any history of trauma that may have caused the bleeding. It is a pleasure to inform you and help you. If you have not subscribed to the channel, you should do it now. Take care of yourself and your furry friend. A hug, and until the next video.